Hello, my entrepreneurial friends. It's Resurfing here, and today is, of course, YO-KAIDAY Friday. So I want to talk about a yokai that surprisingly is not within Yokai Watch at all, as far as I'm able to tell. Not in any of the games. I am, of course, referring to the Kodama. Of course, the most famous depiction is the one you see here, as in Hayao Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke. What's interesting is while the yokai themselves are not within Yokai Watch, they are referenced in Katie's surname. For those who don't know, her Japanese surname is Kodama. Kodama being forest spirits, making her last name Forester was actually not a bad transliteration choice. It's pretty good. Kodama are forest spirits, like I said. They tend to live in trees that are also referred to as Kodama. And when they're disturbed, they make a rattling sound. This sound is sometimes also referred to as Kodama, just to make things completely confusing. In some of the older myths, from what I've been able to gather online, the rattling sound is what people thought was the cause of the delayed echo in certain canyons or forests or caves or what have you. Pretty much anywhere that makes an echo. In more recent times, it's thought that it's good luck to have a Kodama house nearby you, because that will bring you good luck, like I just said. I don't know why I repeated myself there. However, if you accidentally cut down a Kodama's home, you are in for a very bad time. They will make sure you have the worst luck you'll ever get. They are just nature spirits. They're harmless unless you do anything to them. The reason I thought the Kodama is because I've been playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is a Shin Megami Tensei game, and that was one of my first introductions to Kodama. In fact, I think that you introduced it to me before Hayao Miyazaki, which is pretty incredible. Again, in more recent times, they will give good luck to you if you leave your trees alone. And in fact, there's a special rope that is used to protect shrines. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it will surround trees that Kodama are believed to live in, to make sure that they are protected. Another incarnation of Kodama, which I found out while researching and surprised me, is the Kokiri from The Legend of Zelda. Now, the Kokoro from Wind Waker and from Breath of the Wild are obviously somewhat based off Kodama. They shake around, they have the three holes, sort of face, it makes sense. But the Kokiri was one I didn't quite realize, but it makes sense when you think back. From what I remember, your one friend does have that wooden mask that has like 3 holes in it. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time since I played that game. but it does make sense, especially with them being forest spirits and literally children of the Deku Tree. It makes sense. So that's it for this portion of the video. I'm going to be doing a review of Tokyo Mirage Sessions as well, because, quite frankly, that's a really fun game for me, and I think it deserves a review. Like I said, it's rare for me, my profile, it's rare for me to do reviews. So I'm going to be back in a moment. Okay, guys, I'm back, and I am going to do a review of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because it's a game I think deserves it. As I'm sure you all know, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a crossover between Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. Um, and I personally think it's a really good game. I'm not sure why it did as bad as it did in Japan. I think it might actually do better here, based off of what I've seen of the pre-orders anyway. It's pretty cool. So, the main character you play is Itsuki Aoi, or Aoi Itsuki, I'm not sure which one's the surname. But you play as him, and of course you have friends who help you along the way. The image here shows Toma, who is currently attacking, and Kiria are currently partnered. So, Itsuki's partner is Crom, so he tends to have sword and repeater-based attacks. And his element is thunder, which may be a reference to Robin. Toma's partner is Kane, and of course he uses lances as a knight. And Kiria is partners with Tharja, so she gets some of the core abilities that don't get too much love in Shin Megami games, since they tend not to be that useful. They are very useful in this game. She has the sleep abilities, things like that. Her element is ice, and I forgot to mention, Toma's element is fire, which you can probably guess by the fact that he's literally got red in his name. Toma Akagi. I'm not sure which way would be correct to pronounce that. So what's cool is that their partners actually turn into the weapons when they fuse with the heroes that you're playing as. And it's got a cool little henshin sequence, like something out of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, you get the idea. Of course, you have the classic Shin Megami Tensei elemental triangle where Bufu and what the fire name is, which escapes me, are weak to and effective against each other. But you also have the weapon triangle from Fire Emblem. So, for example, spears, I think, beat swords. I can't quite remember. But that affects the enemies as well as the elements, and you can do, and the damage does stack if you have a weapon that's specifically for an element. So that's something to keep in mind. The reason this video is up so late today, by the way, is that I have logged in 6 hours and 7 minutes onto this game, and I'm not even out of the first chapter. Because the Atlas game and the beginning chapters are that long. I logged like an hour and a half on the prologue alone, I think. And then afterwards, I did a bit of training, but not too much, and I was going back every time I got a new skill available. And you get those skills available a lot. Your skills are actually gained from weapons, or partially, and once all the skills from one weapon are gone, you'll want to go back and get a new weapon so that you can learn new skills. You do have a limited amount of skill slots. It has not affected me yet, but I'm assuming it will in the future. And while they do all have a main element, the weapons can give them things of different elements. For example, I recently equipped Toma with a weapon that will give him Zan, the wind ability. It's actually weaker than his previous weapon, and I don't know why why that turned up all of a sudden. I'd like to keep this image up. I guess it just really wants to give me a tutorial on it. Anyways, so the enemies have a weakness to both an element and to a weapon. And in certain cases, their weapons are guaranteed to do harm to an enemy. For example, Toma's one lance gave him an ability that let him do critical damage on any horse-based enemy. Considering there is a horse-based boss, it did a good amount of damage, and it was very helpful. Now, the part where I just got to is the intermission for Chapter 1. It allows you to do all the side quests and side stories that you want before you start continuing the game, so you can just get all that stuff out there right away. Until you can't anymore and you need to progress on the story, basically. This also means that you don't really have to grind at all, because the game's designed that you're doing something while you're grinding. I mean, again, I had a small bit of grinding, but it wasn't too much, and it was surprisingly low for an Atlas game. That's not to say this is not a difficult game, because it is an Atlas game, and it is difficult. Toma is my favorite character, by the way. It's partially his personality, partially that I think I recognize his voice actor from somewhere, and partially the fact that he wants to become a tokusatsu TV hero, and that is just so up my alley. So I've recently unlocked the ability to do a side story for Toma and a side story for Kiria. Kiria is a pop singer. The main two characters are Itsuki, who I've already mentioned, and Tsubasa, who takes on the Pegasus Knight role. I've heard people complain that they don't really have well-developed personalities, but I've found that it's pretty good, at least in my opinion. It's certainly better than, for example, Surf and Sarah's personality in DDS, which is one of my favorite games, don't get me wrong, but those two had no personality. And Surf doesn't get a personality even after the story's revealed, unlike every single other character. So I actually found that Itsuki has a surprising amount of personality, considering that you do control the choices that he makes. Tsubasa's partner is Sita, who's not actually a character that I know that well. I need to play more Fire Emblem games. I just have the issue of I don't want anyone to die, and I can't do soft resets. I just can't do it. Thankfully, the new games, I have an option to turn that off. To turn off the permanent death, I mean. I found the voice acting to be good. Again, I think I recognize Toma's voice actor, as well as Kane's for that matter, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It's one of those ones I'll have to look up. I've heard people complain that this wasn't dubbed, but there's so much singing and stuff going on that I'm not sure a dub would even work. It was probably best to keep the Japanese voice actors, just due to how much singing and idol stuff is involved within the game. Because you'd have to find people who can do it well enough within the English lyrics, and not sure how well that would actually work out. I would kind of like to see it, but I understand why they didn't do it. Um, there is an achievement system within the game. It gives you clues to some of the things you can get, and once you get a certain amount, it gives you a trophy. You have a nice little trophy shelf in your main base, which is cool. I've also heard people complain that the battles are slow, and that part's really confusing me because this is some of the fastest battles I've seen in any RPG ever. And especially within the Shin Megami franchise. Yes, you do have some long animations, but you can skip them like you can in everything else, so I don't know where the complaint from that's coming from. What's pretty cool is that you can make a chain combat. For example, if I go against an enemy that's weak to electricity and I use Zio with Itsuki, it'll then trigger a chain with Toma, who will use fire, which will trigger another chain with Kiria, who will use ice. And depending on if the chain defeated an enemy within the chain, you could actually end up with whole bunch of weaknesses activated. Theoretically, and I don't know if this is possible or not, but theoretically it might be possible for Itsuki to get an ability that triggers off of ice, which would then cause the chain again, and I don't know if that's something that's possible or not. It's something that I definitely look forward to finding out, because it would be interesting if that is the case. I mentioned the others elements. Sita doesn't have an element. She tends to get Zen abilities, which are wind, but she doesn't necessarily have an element. She's mostly the healer and gets the Dia spells. And what's nice is that Itsuki also gets a Dia spell very early on, and so you can have two healers very early on, and you're able to take Sita out without crippling yourself. All in all, I think this is a fun game. I think more people should give it a chance. I don't think enough people have. And it's one of those games that I'd like to see do well. And I think I'd probably like to see a sequel, just based off what I've seen so far. Because this is pretty well done, in my opinion. You can see the line at the top of the screenshot there shows the turn order, so it shows that we'll go Toma, that Red Knight thing, Kiria, that creepy clown thing, zombie, I don't know what it is, but it scares me. And then it goes Itsuki, Toma, Kiria. And you can make a chain per character's turn. So, for example, if this battle gets to that point with where they're all in a row, you can make a chain with Itsuki, then one with Toma, then one with Kiria. You also have special abilities, which your special meter goes up as you fight through battles, and I found it's best to save them up either for boss battles or for battles where you don't have anyone who has the effective type. And of course, I have to mention that this game has great music. I did not get the special edition just because due to how much it is, but I would love to get the soundtrack. There are also special abilities I'll be able to get later on where there are like team type attacks, but I won't be able to do that quite yet. And team type attacks are different from the sessions in the way they play out. Can't remember what they're called. It was mentioned on the Treehouse stream. But I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of this and to finding out more of what's going on in the story here. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been YO-KAIDAY Friday, as well as a review of Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. I finally pronounced it correctly. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, have a great time wherever you may be. Bye, guys!